I'm engaged. How do I get married? I'm your host, Kevin Dennis. In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 35 years ago. Each week on this podcast, we'll explore a new corner of the wedding planning so you can prepare for your I-dos without the stress. From budgeting to booking vendors to day of drama, let's talk smart wedding planning. We're live. We did it. Welcome to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? And we're back with the Three Stooges in August. So here we go for another episode. It's a good way to describe us, but we're here to talk about wedding day curveballs and how a great DJ saves the day. So August, I will let you take it from there.
All right. If you guys tune into our last episode with the Three Stooges plus me, I kind of took on the role as the host a little bit more. So we'll do a similar format today. So I'll just be interviewing our three Fantasy Sound DJs. And today we'll be tackling the subject of wedding day curveballs and how a great DJ can save your wedding day.
Wait, curveball.
We're talking sports.
Yeah, wait.
That's a sports term.
Glenn, do you even know how to throw a curveball, or do you know what a curveball?
I barely know how to throw a ball. So
okay.
All I can think of is Cinderella's ball. Like, I would love to go to Cinderella's ball.
That would be a good ball.
Well, it's probably a good thing you don't know about curveballs, because then that means we're avoiding them. So
that's right.
All right. Okay. So, before we dive deeper into some of the more elaborate situations you guys may have experienced at past weddings, I just want to first discuss some of the more common curveballs that you guys get on the day-to-day and why having a great DJ, such as yourselves, is so important for that. So if you guys just kind of want to go in a circle, what common issues do you guys have a lot that you feel the need to step in and assist?
Big messes.
Oh
my gosh.
Okay,
we work so hard to make sure that our setup is organized and clean. Like, our bags are hidden. We tape down cords. We go to great lengths to make sure that everything looks nice and is presentable. And then we will get a partner that comes in. So a photographer or a videographer, and they just start throwing their bags all over the place like a 15-year-old's bedroom. And that drives me bonkers. So I will help them to get organized and, I don't touch their equipment, right? I try to keep my hands off of other people's equipment. It's just better that way.
Don't mention any names. No names.
Yeah. But I will say, hey, there's space over there, or you can put it in the back of the room, or there's another room where you can put those bags.
Well, I had one time a photographer actually lock his camera bags to my speaker stand. And I was like,
wow.
I walked in and I was like, it was like a bicycle lock around my speaker stand. And I'm like, that looks really attractive.
Yeah, I think it's more of the other vendors touching our equipment. Like videographers who need to record audio and they don't ask and they just go ahead and unplug something and plug in their stuff. Next thing you know, you hear this loud pop and then there's panic and anger sets in. And of course we have keep our cool. That's probably one of the main things. What else?
Yeah, you wouldn't go walking around the gym touching other people's equipment.
No.
I mean, don't go walking around touching my stuff, my junk.
Yeah. That's a good point. I would say, something else that happens is you'll be at a wedding and all of a sudden, one of the bridesmaids or a family member all of a sudden thinks they're in charge of the wedding, and you have not dealt with this person one time, you've never been introduced to this person, and all of a sudden this person is barking orders at you and they're totally different from what the orders you've been given. And that is something that is always we got to nip that in the bud as fast as we can.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, go ahead, Glenn.
I was going to say, so I have a little bag. It is not a purse, but I have a little bag that I carry with me, and it's got like mints. I've got some safety pins in there. I keep tape in there, like double-sided tape. So I
Tide stick.
yeah, right. That Tide pen, like those things.
Mhm.
And it's just got all those kinds of things in it because like sometimes a groom will come up and be like, dude, man, I ate all of that salmon and it is just repeating on me. I'll be like, would you like a mint? So, I mean, there's little things like that, you know, a lot of the venues where we work, coordinators are like on it and they have that already. But sometimes it's nice for you to be able to have a little something, right? To help them get through bustling or whatever might be going on.
Beautiful. Especially like right before the ceremony is about to start. You got the wedding party already lined up. And then you come up with your can of Altoids and you offer that. That's such an awesome
nice
thing. Yeah. And of course, you know, most likely they've probably been drinking a few, and especially the groom. And the first thing, you know, the bride doesn't want to taste when they do their kiss is alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always carry a little tub of Altoids.
Yeah,
Can never
and I
go
would
wrong.
say honestly, everything that you guys brought up, I pretty much experienced on the daily when I was, you know, coordinating. So, of course, it's great to have an experienced and good DJ because not only are they organized when it comes to equipment, they can kind of redirect the rest of your creative partner team in a nice and professional way. I mean, Fantasy Sound DJs, like you said, Glenn, we have backup equipment and also little emergency kits too if you know someone needs a little mint or something. And I really liked your groomsman voice. That was good.
Thank you.
I've actually added a little anti-choking device. I think it's called LifeVac.
Huh?
And
Wow.
although I've never like experienced anybody choking at a wedding, I'd hate for that to happen and just feel so helpless. And of course, something like that, something traumatic like that, would probably, you know, ruin the whole vibe of the night.
Well, yeah, it would.
And so I actually have one in my little emergency kit
Is it made by
just in
DeWalt?
case.
DeWalt to make it. It's like a vacuum cleaner.
It's called LifeVac, and it's a little plastic thing that I guess you put over your face, and then you sort of like punch it, and the air kind of like sucks it out. Yeah. So I bring that along. I mean, just I mean, there's always
Wow.
kids there, you know, older people, and just in case. So
Well, that would
you
already make
making
me
fun of
feel
older
100%
people?
safer.
it's actually for me. I eat really
Yeah.
fast.
I was gonna say,
Can't help it.
now that I'm old.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys for sharing that. Now I kind of want to get into some more specific instances and see if you
Yes.
guys have any stories from your past to share. So, first
before
off,
I'm gonna say before we continue, can you tell us about your story when you were a coordinator and the DJ didn't even show up?
oh yeah, okay. So, for our listeners, Kevin and I were prepping for this episode, and I was kind of going through the questions that I would be asking you guys today. And one of them had to do with was there ever an instance where another vendor or creative partner didn't show up to the wedding and you had to step in and kind of take over the services that they were supposed to provide? And I was a coordinator at a venue, and or this might have been when I was a banquet captain, but I was working hand in hand with the coordinator that day at the venue. But we kept, you know, inching closer to the ceremony, you know, 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes, and they could not get a hold of the DJ, like for the life of them, calling, emailing, texting, calling colleagues, trying to get in contact with them. Like they would not answer. And mind you, I always like to add this part into the story. Only the groom knew about this. So somehow we were able to conceal the entire thing from the bride. She did not know until way later. But what we had to do is at the venue, we had speakers that would play house music outside. So we quickly created a Spotify playlist just on, you know, an iPad, and we connected it to the house speakers. And the coordinator, she's dismissing people, and then I'm staying in the back, like fading in, fading out the music on the Spotify playlist as, the bridesmaids walk down, the groomsmen walk down, the parents walk down. And let me tell you, top 10 most stressful moments of my life. I did not want to mess it up so bad. But I mean, that's what you get when you have an amazing vendor team, though. Like, you can step in and save the day. And thank goodness they were eventually able to get a hold of a different DJ. Like, one of the photographers knew someone who was able to come in a pinch, and they ended up DJing for them the rest of the evening. And I think at that point, that's when they kind of looped the bride in. But at least for the ceremony, she was completely unaware and just had an amazing time. But yeah, that was just a wild moment for sure.
But now August has an appreciation for what we do.
1,000%.
Yes.
I mean, I feel that way for every ceremony, right? Because I don't get a chance to do a do-over, right? This is the only time that I get to do this. So if I screw it up, I mean, that's probably the ceremony and introductions. Like, those are the two most stressful moments for me during it.
And it's nothing more frustrating when someone walks out of order and you're like trying to figure it out. Wait, I was supposed to fade out on the flower girl. Now the flower girl's going out, but there's still more people. Or I was supposed to change on a parent, and where's the parent? We're going without parents. It's like, and no one told me. Those are always very stressful. So I always like try to seamlessly blend the music and, move on to the next song because,
For every ceremony playlist I do, I throw in one extra song. So it's like, usually I do the one from Hercules, the instrumental version. Go the Distance, right?
Yeah.
I throw that one into every playlist because it's just kind of generic. So if I need to fill in, I have that song there to just like pull up and be like, go.
I like that.
Mine is 1,000 Years. I was I believe it's like a piano version of 1,000 Years. So
that's
it
a
just
beautiful.
keeps going.
Yeah, I know. Because it's long too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, no, but I definitely wanted to tell that story. It was wild, and like Kevin said, gave me a true appreciation for what you guys do. But yeah, again, having a great vendor team is just so vital. But next question for you guys. Has there ever been, or can you tell us about a time when weather threw a wrench into the day's plans? Did you have to play a certain role in adapting to that? And I'll let you guys marinate for a minute.
Oh, I have a good one. Well, it just happened over the summer.
Okay, go ahead.
We're doing a ceremony outside. It's 1,000,000 degrees. Everyone tried to convince the bride to move it inside. And, and she was adamant. Nope, it's outside. And then the bride goes out and she does her photos before, and all of a sudden she's dehydrated and in the clubhouse vomiting, and the mom passed out from heat exhaustion. And all of a sudden the coordinator goes, we have to move everything inside. And Ginger from the Flower House was our florist, and I went up to her and she was like taking photos of how beautiful everything looked outside. And I said, hey girl, just got word we're moving inside. And she thought I was joking because I joke with Ginger a lot. And I go, no, I'm not joking this time. And we literally moved everything in within 10 minutes between the venue, Ginger's folks, or just me. We all chipped in and moved everything inside in a pinch, and then we ended up not doing the ceremony for about another 3 hours because they ended up having to call 911 for the mom and the bride. But it was that was the most craziest extreme thing I've ever dealt with weather.
But it still kind of gives you like a sense of teamwork, right? Like that bride, so unfortunate that had to happen, but like her team really came together and got everything done in a short amount of time. So if they could do it in those 10 minutes, that would have been really awesome.
Well, and the other thing too that I thought was kind of the officiant left because he got tired of waiting. And instead of having, like, we all had compassion for the bride, and this is her wedding day, and her, like now her memory is of getting sick and having firemen having to come revive her and her mom and all that stuff. But anyway, it was just like,
were the firemen hot?
They were, and all the women.
That's really important.
Everyone was hot. Remember, it was super hot.
I was not. I'm not one to judge. I was not one to judge, but all the female wedding planners were like losing their mind. They thought it was the greatest thing ever.
I'm gonna have to pass out at a wedding.
Yeah. But anyway, they, and it just, and I was like, to myself, like, this officiant, he's like, well, I have dinner plans. It's like, you can.
She had wedding plans, bro.
Yeah, it's like you can break your dinner plans because
this is the biggest day of their life.
Well, right. And after the guy left, the wedding coordinator looked at me. She goes, I use him exclusively for all my weddings. I will never hire him again. I have never seen this side of him. And I can't believe he had zero compassion and he wanted to charge more to stay. And when when she couldn't get approval for, more money to stay, it's like, come on, have a little compassion, like think about the review they would write, for you saving the day.
It's just tacky. Like,
right? Yeah. It's, we're humans and have a little compassion for humans.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess I've been pretty lucky because I've never really had like weather really affect anything. There was one, I was doing a Greek wedding. I kind of noticed because I was alone in the room.
Was it a big fat Greek wedding?
No. It was
not at the moment because everyone was still inside the church and it was at a church hall. And I kind of noticed after the cake maker set up the cake, it was a little off. So the top tier was a little off centered, like it was shifting. And, I saw that and I kept an eye on it for a while. So as a good vendor, I always have like everyone's emergency contact number. I have the cake maker, I have whatever, caterers, photo booth, everybody. Luckily, I had the cake maker's phone number. I called him up and I told them about the situation, but they never answered. So I never answered. I left the message, waited another 10 minutes. By this time, everyone's already filtering in. And so I decided to call them again. At the time, I was standing right next to the cake table. Thing moved another inch, maybe another inch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was right on the edge. And so I called them again. And then she finally answered and she goes, all you have to do is just kind of push it over a little. I was a little uncomfortable because I didn't want to mess this up,
Yeah.
I didn't want to mess it up. And she goes, okay, give the phone to the caterer. So the caterer was standing right there, gave the phone to the caterer. She was trying to get instructions. I happened to be looking at the cake and I see the cake ready to collapse. It was like in slow motion. And I just pulled my hand out and I saved the cake.
Oh,
I saved it and I couldn't believe it. The caterer was on the phone and her eyes lit up and like, oh my God, what just happened? The bride didn't know about it until after.
I love that.
But the bride's maid of honor saw what happened and she told her later. But and I didn't get a tip from it. But that's okay.
Yeah. And were you not? And were you wearing your Superman cape when you did it too?
No, that's
faster.
My fireman outfit.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So Kevin, to your point, I actually got my officiant's license. So that in the event that someone doesn't show or has issues, that I could step in and, get the couple married. I mean, why not?
I'm also good because I have mine because I married my sister and my brother-in-law and they ended up
Is that
getting
legal
married.
in California?
Well, yeah. You can marry. Yeah,
I did mine in like 30 seconds online. So I'm also just for funsies. I am also able to do that.
With that said, when you sign the marriage certificate, there's no like license number or anything to go with it. So my philosophy, they don't care as long as it's filled out right. They have no idea. And there's witnesses and all the signatures is in the right coloring. I don't think the state of California cares. So if you're listening outside of the state of California, they do care because my sister and brother-in-law got married in Nevada and I had to get a notary from my church that said I was authorized to perform services outside of my church in the state of Nevada. And basically it's a racket because then I had to call the little online place that I got it. And she goes, oh, are you getting married in Nevada? Are they getting married in Nevada? I'm like, yeah. She goes, okay. And when do you need it by? I'm like, in 3 days. And she goes, okay. It'll cost you $289 and I'll have it FedExed and we'll have it notarized and everything signed over to the venue and it'll be there in time. And I'm like, she knew exactly what the process was. So I'm like, there's some kind of racket where they're Nevada's getting a kickback from these churches, these online churches. And it also was like, California's so strict with everything. And where Nevada, you have gambling and prostitution and you name it in Nevada, I'm like, of course they would be the one that's strict with marriage. So.
Well, I think in California too, you don't have to get your will notarized. I don't think either.
No.
We're not
lawyers. We're not lawyers.
That's right. We don't want to
That's why I said think. I think. But okay. All right. Next question, guys. All right. So, have you ever had to manage a situation where a guest's behavior was disruptive to the wedding?
Oh, I had a good one.
I'll let Glenn go.
The only time I have ever stopped someone during their speech. The only time.
Ugh.
And I always tell people, like I tell my couples when I meet with them, all right, 2 things that you're going to tell everybody who's giving a speech. The first thing is make sure their speech is on paper, not on their phone, because their phones overheat. Like I had one woman stick it in her, what do they call that? The breastises up here, and like the phone the phone like overheated.
The scientific term.
The breastises, yes. And it overheated, so like she didn't even have her vows on her phone. But I tell them always make sure that the vows are printed out or the speeches are printed out. And number 2, tell them they only have 2 minutes. I'm not going to cut them off after 2 minutes, but at least it makes people think about it, right? They're like, oh gosh, I have to make sure this is meaningful in a short amount of time.
Concise.
Right. So I was doing this wedding and the groom's brother had way too much to drink and was just rambling on and on and on and on, and he kept telling the same story. He was Filipino, ironically, Norm. So I love it. But he was talking about like how they grew up in the Philippines, and he had to carry his brother to the hospital with no shoes, and like he just kept telling that story. Well, then he gets the brother in a headlock and is like, I just love this guy. I just love him.
Like the groom in a headlock?
Yeah, the brother had the groom in a headlock. And so I walked up there and I think that that was when we were doing video, Kevin. So Brandon was there. And so we caught it on video of me going up and like pulling them apart and go, all right, have a seat. Thanks so much. Great. Give him a big round of applause.
Yeah.
Just sit the F down.
That's crazy.
I mean, I've had drunk where you have to break up people from getting, like they started getting mouthy, or, you just have to step in and we're at a wedding, calm down, that kind of stuff. But
yeah. I remember doing weddings in the 90s where there were full on riots. We used to break out.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Full on riots. Yeah. Chairs fly in, everything.
Oh, my.
But, yeah. They're not as strict back then. So
well, they allowed shots back then, and that's I think the big difference is a lot of venues and hotels now don't allow shots at weddings, and I think that makes a big difference.
Well, I don't think it's necessary, because there's already open bar for so many hours. Like you don't need shots at that point.
No.
And I even tell my couples, I say it's to your benefit, right? If someone comes over with a shot of Jaeger, you got to do it. If someone comes over to you with a drink, you can set it down.
Yeah.
Right? You don't
That's
have to
fair.
finish it. So I always tell them it's not having shots is a benefit for you.
yeah. It always surrounds. It's always around alcohol. It's always
really
alcohol. Yeah, everything is always about alcohol. And then the weddings that end later, like after like 11, and
Nothing
it's usually
good
bad.
happens after 11.
That's
Right.
what it's funny. I've said that forever now. It's like nothing good happens after 11 o'clock. So
That's so funny you say that because Hot to Go, Chapel Roan. She has a song called "Everything Good Happens After Midnight," and you guys are saying the opposite.
Not at a wedding.
no.
I don't think I think anything like disruptive that happened in my past was always alcohol related, or like medical emergencies would sometimes happen, or the biggest one that I hated the most, and I did have one wedding in particular this was kind of tough, but when it becomes an open mic situation and you have to put that to a halt, that's a little rough. I had this wedding where the groom, even though we've never discussed this, and it probably was because he wasn't part of the planning meetings, I had only communicated with the bride from this point. but he just grabbed the mic after the toast from the DJ and said, "Oh, who else, wants to come up here?" And then a line formulated. And I'm like, okay. So I had to stop them at one point, and I went to the couple and I just said, okay, we have this much time left. If you want to do open mic, we can, but you're going to miss this and this and this. And we kind of had to come to a compromise where they did a couple more speeches because the groom didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But, I think that DJ in the moment, like, again, no names, love him, but he should have stopped it and not let it continue because they lost a lot of open dancing time.
That's where I think couples, the more they pile on, like slideshows and all these different things, you're losing the party part of the wedding. So whether it's, like you said, open mic, nothing good ever. I've never seen anything good happen from an open mic, because if one auntie gets up and says something, then every auntie has to get up and say something, because they don't want to be the one auntie that didn't say something.
That's
Uncles,
exactly.
cousins, you name it, and they're telling, to Glen's point earlier, it's the same story over and over and over again. And it's like, pick the few people that you want to have speak and represent you at your wedding. And then if you want to allow open mic, do it at the rehearsal dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because there's no dancing, there's no other things to do at the rehearsal dinner. So
yeah, time is so precious.
It really is.
It goes by so fast, especially at a reception. You just, next thing you know, it's over.
For that time. You're paying to listen to people you don't want to hear talking.
Well, and the other thing about, again, here we are back to people touching my equipment, everybody touching my stuff. You wouldn't go to the grocery store and push the cashier out of the way to get to the register and be like, oh no, I know how this works. You wouldn't do that, so stay away from my stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you would if you were a robber, though. If you were robbing the place, you would do that.
Well, that's not good.
Norm, those people that didn't tip you, you had to go rob a bank or a grocery store.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like a robber right now with his shirt on.
Oh my goodness.
This?
The stripes. They always wear stripes.
Do they?
Yeah, like a robber costume. They're wearing black and white stripes.
Like the Hamburglar?
The new black.
The Hamburglar.
Rubble.
But I had a story kind of opposite of Glen's, which this maid of honor I had once. She was absolutely obliterated, right? Like, so drunk. She could barely walk, barely talk, and it was getting close to her speech. And I would always go up and prep them, like, hey, like 5-10 minutes, be ready, make sure you have your champagne, your speech ready to go, yada yada. So I went up to her to prep her, and I was so nervous. She was not doing well. And it was crazy that we get to the speech, she gets up there, and she does it, like, perfectly. You would not even be able to tell that she was drunk, and I was just in shock, because you could not tell. She just delivered it perfectly. It was the most perfect speech, so short, so sweet, but she was amazing up there, and I was just like, damn, how many times did she practice this where she could deliver it perfectly, even in her state? I just thought it was the most amazing thing. Not recommending that, of course, but I was just in shock.
Weird. I had one one maid of honor who was so nervous to speak up there on the microphone. She actually recorded her speech on the phone and put the microphone up to the phone and played it, and it was pretty darn clear. And I was really surprised. But it was weird to just see her standing there and just everybody just staring at her.
She could have lip synced it.
Yeah, she just moved her lips.
She could have emailed it to you. Yeah, exactly. And you could have played it. And then therefore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to that, Kevin, I've done that several times, like especially during the pandemic, that there were family members that were unable to come to the weddings, and they were kind of bummed. They're like, oh, my grandmother won't be able to make it. And so like I worked with, and there were some of my favorite surprises is that I worked with the, maid of honor or best man or brother or sister to get them to like record a voice memo on their phone and then send it to me, and then be able to deliver that to the bride and groom as a surprise. Like, I love those types of surprises. Like,
so touching. It's so touching. Yeah.
Surprises can go good or bad.
That's true. That's true.
There was my pot roast wedding.
No. Don't
Pot
remember
roast
that one.
wedding.
Pot roast wedding. Pot roast wedding.
Care to elaborate on that?
No, it'll be a different episode. No, I'm teasing.
Okay.
Okay.
No, you are teasing. You're making us wait.
So I met with the family. So the family came in. It wasn't just one or two people. And this was when we were meeting in person. Now everybody wants to Zoom. But we were meeting in person. And the dad asked the mom and the daughter to leave. And he wanted to talk to me. So he said, hey, look, ever since my daughter was a little girl, she's always said that she didn't want flowers at her wedding. She wanted a pot roast. Because she came home from school one day and she was like, wow, Mom, that smells delicious. And her mom says, oh, it's pot roast. So she goes, at my wedding, instead of flowers, I want pot roast. So he wanted to swap out her flowers for a pot roast when he walked her down the aisle.
Like a bouquet of a pot roast? Just like...
No, like a pot with a roast in it. Like there was...
Oh my God.
Swapping out... As she was coming to him to walk down the aisle,
and get the juice all over her white dress.
His plan was to have this pot roast, and so I was talking to the coordinator beforehand, and I said, "What are we doing about this whole pot roast thing?" And she said that nobody knew, so she was able to talk to the wife, and they convinced him to just have the pot with nothing in it. So it was the mom's pot roast pot. So it was covered up with a tablecloth. So as the bride walked down the aisle, and I was cringing the whole time. So I had prepared a song that the dad chose for them to walk down the aisle for their pot roast walk. And then I did I did it in reverse for them to walk back up the aisle, swap it out for flowers and do it. But when I was so nervous when they pulled the tablecloth off of the pot roast pot, because I thought we just ruined this young woman's magical
dress.
Day.
Yeah.
And they pulled the tablecloth off of the pot roast pot, and she started crying.
Oh, no way.
She was so touched, and it was like a magical, beautiful moment. And then I played the song in reverse when they walked back down the aisle and like swapped out the pot roast for flowers. But not really like a save the day moment, but it was one of those moments, Kevin, to your point where I was like, oh, I have no idea how this surprise is going to go. Well,
because you never know how the bride, like you got the reaction that was a surprise was meant for. But when you get the reaction when it's anger, or they're mad, that's a whole different thing, but what the reaction you got was perfect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
I was prepared for the other
August is over here crying in her office right now.
Yeah, it's just like a very it feels good to be seen, right? And I think that's what that was this was probably something they joked about their whole lives, like, oh, she said this as a kid and it's so funny, and just to see that played out on your wedding day and that your family cared enough to have a little surprise for you, that I'm sure that just meant a lot to her.
And that's like super memorable too. I mean, guests will always remember something like that, something different, something they've never seen before. And,
right. I did have we gave her two endings, right? So there was the pot roast one, but had arranged for it to be backed up in a fun way, right? Let's back this up and then swap it out. And then you go with, I literally played the song backwards, and then she got to walk to her song forwards with the flowers, but very
that's great. No, but then with that said, when people are throwing you curveballs to do these surprises, and I'm always like, we got to include, someone's got to know what's going on, because it's you'll get an aunt I want to do a surprise toast for my niece, or it's like, nope, you're not on my list. I can't let you speak. It just sometimes you got to put the brakes on and not let these people do it, because you don't know what the reaction's going to be.
Or even worse, they'll say, oh, they're going to sing. They want to sing.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Oh, my God. Yes. Filipino weddings.
No. I also hate to be a hater, but most of the time the singing performances were just not the best. So sorry, guys.
Yeah. It didn't live up to the expectations.
Yeah. I do like when the bride will sing for the groom or vice versa. I think that's sweet because, obviously the main event anyway, but I think that's
we did
really
a wedding
sweet.
where the bride and groom sang together, and it was really cute. But they were talented. There's a difference.
Oh, that was that Monday wedding, right?
Yeah,
that one?
Yeah. And there's difference when they have talent, when they just, like you said, to your point, Glenn, oh, I'd like to sing. Can I please have the microphone to sing? No.
No.
It's not karaoke night.
No.
This microphone
Maybe
doesn't work
maybe
with
at the
singing.
end of the night when it's like when everyone's drunk and you got that drunk sing along to end the night. Yeah, maybe.
I was going to say, that's a big maybe.
And I guess like the other part of it is people don't understand how much this equipment costs, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's
Right, I mean-
equipment, but the other part is the reaction we're going to get from the bride and groom. Now
Right.
they're going to be mad at us for allowing this to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you have to use your best judgment, and that's by knowing
It's
your
hard.
couples too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, get to know your couples, see what you can get away with or can't get away with. But yeah, reminds me of a story. Speaking of singing, we had this.
Are you going to sing for us, Norm?
No,
Okay.
never.
Don't
So-
touch my heart, my achy, breaky heart.
Oh, jeez. Now I'm gonna get that song stuck in my head.
I know.
All right.
You're welcome.
So we had this bride, and she tells me her father is like so terrified of like dancing her father-daughter dance, and that he was more willing to sing a song other than dance with her.
Interesting.
Oh, really?
So when the time came up, she came up, and then I played the instrumental track, and then he walked up, gave him the microphone, and then he started singing to her. And she started singing back. It was a duet. I forget which song it was. It was a duet, and it was such a beautiful moment.
Mm.
And they still had their moment at the end of the song when 15, 20 seconds at the end of the song to actually have their dance where they actually got close enough and they just started swaying towards to end the song. So they still had their father-daughter dance, but again, they had this beautiful duet.
And that's nice. And that's,
yeah,
and see,
that was
and
beautiful.
that's a good, yeah. And it's funny,
Yeah.
you just reminded me of it. I just did a wedding this fall where the bride and the dad surprised the rest of their family, and they did a whole mashup of songs. And
Oh,
it
that was
went
my
on.
event, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah. It was fun. So
That was, they did a really good job
and
too.
they killed it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right? That's like choreographed dances. In my opinion, they go one of two ways. They are really stellar or they suck.
Yeah.
Right?
Or they're
No.
stiff.
No.
It's
Yeah.
That's what I mean, is that it's awful to watch. It's painful to watch a groom out there like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1,
Counting
2,
in his
3,
head
4.
and-
Yeah.
They're
One,
like on
2,
Dancing
3,
with the
4.
Stars, you know?
Yeah, and
And-
it's I tell them I would rather watch you stand and sway for a minute and a half than watch you out there stressed out 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well,
And
'cause
that's the only
problem
thing they're going to remember too. Remember counting in their head the whole time.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not going to remember the whole thing. But what it is they go to these dance classes, and the dance instructors convince them to do this because they get more money out of the couple for more lessons. And all it does is if you're not. I always tell my couples, open a bottle of wine, start listening to songs that you think you might like, and you're eventually, as you get through that bottle of wine, you're going to find one that you guys will groove to and dance to. And when you choreograph it, it's another stress on the day of that you just don't need. Because the other thing too they don't think about is the dress, the bride's dress when they're doing all these choreographed dances, is how big it is or how mobile it is.
Heavy it is,
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Yeah.
I tell my brides, put a sheet around your waist.
No,
If
that's
you
a
want
good
to
one.
practice your dance, put a sheet. Just fasten a sheet and see how it feels.
And I also tell them to practice with the shoes they're going to be wearing on the day of because
Oh,
yeah, so when they're practicing, they're wearing their tennis shoes, and yeah, it might feel comfortable, but on the day of, you got a different surface. Your floor is different. Your shoes.
You're in your cha-cha heels.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly.
Okay, well, I want to ask you guys one final question before we wrap things up. And this is just to hone home on the point that you guys are magnificent DJs and great DJs will always save the day. Is I want to hear about your most impressive wedding day save.
ooh.
Ooh. Oh my God.
Oh, I know mine.
You want to go
yours was-
first?
It wasn't my prettiest moment, but it was definitely
But most impressive?
my most impressive save. So it was a brand new venue that had opened up, and it was out a little bit, and so they had we set up our equipment a day before just because it was new. We had to do a lot of drapery set up in there, and we were going through. The ceremony went fine. Reception was off to a great start. And just before we were getting ready for toasts, they brought in an espresso bar. And they plugged the espresso bar in. And the very first drink they made blew the circuits in half the building. So I had no power, and half the room had no power. And so the electrician or the dude came over and flipped the circuit breakers. And then 5 minutes later, they popped again. So it popped like 3 times. And so the coordinator was an outside coordinator. And so I went to her and I said, this bar can't be here. It keeps blowing the circuit. And she said, well, they think it's your equipment. I go, no. Oh, here I am talking about my equipment again. I said, no, my equipment has been plugged in for 2 days. I've been playing all day. Nothing happened until they got here. Yeah. And so she said, well, let's just go on with toasts. If the mic goes out because there's no power, then that's fine. I said, no, that isn't fine.
That is not fine.
So I went up to the mother of the bride and I said, hey, girl, this is what's going on. I don't feel comfortable moving forward with it like this. Do you give me permission to do whatever I need to do to carry out the rest of the evening successfully? She's like, absolutely. I support you 100%. I go, all right, here I go. I walked over. I pulled the espresso bar extension cord out of the wall. I bundled it up. I took it way over to the other side of the room where there were lights, because there were no lights on our side. I took it over to the far side of the room and I told the espresso bar people, I said, you do not plug back into this wall. You go plug in over there. And the coordinator comes up to me and she's like, what do you think you're doing? I said, I'm helping my clients out. And she's like, well, they're my clients. I said, they are my clients too. But ultimately, she was outside on the phone. I heard her later. Oh, this dick of a DJ is bossing people around. I was like, that's all right. You know what? I've done this a lot.
Well, this dick saved the day.
Right? And we did. We got lights back on. They got their coffee. They got their music. We got the speeches done. We got it all done. But like that was one of the moments where I advocated, because they truly are my clients too. And I am not okay with people just yelling their speeches out. So that was it.
That was beautiful.
You're very cool. Very cool.
I was just going to think, for me, it's we had an officiant not show up one time and I ended up officiating the wedding.
Wow.
Much to my dismay.
How did you do?
Nice.
I mean, I did it.
Were you very inspirational?
No.
Do you have like a prepared
script
to his resume?
No, it's funny. It's funny. It was right around when my sister and brother-in-law got married. So I just took theirs and just inserted the couple's name and got rid of all the funny stuff I put about my brother-in-law and sister-in-law in it, and just ran with it, printed it out and read it. I made it the best I could. But what are we going to do? No one was willing to step up to save the day. And so, we did it. So.
Okay, I remember one wedding where ceremony had gone on, everything was good. They took some photos, and the photographer says, "Oh, I'm going to take them out for some sunset shots." Okay, cool. We'll be back in about 20 minutes. Fine. Okay.
40 minutes later.
No, 45 minutes later, still not there. Nobody's around. Everyone's just looking around. And I was like, well, I have to just try something. I have to try somehow entertain them. So I actually have some interactive games that I have in my back pocket that, just in case for, to fill in times, emergency fill in. I started playing some games with the audience, and they still didn't come back for another 45 minutes.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It was an hour and a half. I was livid, but so yeah, I spent that time playing. Like I played like 3 different games, and they sort of forgot about dinner. I kind of like stalled until they finally came back, and that's when we started dinner. But
People love games.
They waited to serve dinner until bride and groom got back?
Yeah.
That was
Whoa.
some dry
Yeah.
chicken.
Yeah, they didn't have a coordinator, and it was just one of these ranch weddings where,
Oh.
they had a manager of the venue, but she really wasn't a coordinator, and they had caterers there and stuff. But
I mean, that's
but
why
yeah.
quality vendors are so important.
You know, and things have changed. Like things are changing all the time, right?
every
Like,
year.
I before I go to put like microphones on people, I ask about consent. Like, is it okay? I'm going to reach inside your pocket.
Oh my God.
No, it's so
I
important,
do.
though.
I do.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'll watch a videographer go up and just like start shoving their hands in people's coats and
No.
dresses and stuff like that. I'm like, no, that's like, I think that it's so important that
Well, especially, and nowadays you just don't know, and it's like I need to put this right here. Do you want to do it? Do you need me to do it? And this goes back here. And I always, you got to be. You never know.
You almost have to have like a witness right next to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do that with bride's bustles. Like, do I have permission to touch you? Because sometimes you kind of have to get under the dress a little bit, and you don't know people's comfort levels and you don't know their past,
I'll never forget. We were working a wedding. You just reminded me of that. Is at Palm Event Center in Pleasance in California, and the groom, and I guarantee they're divorced after this, but the groom, they were out there. I thought
That's
the bride
our next
was
set of podcast episode. You got married, now it's time to get divorced.
But they were out there saying hello or whatever, and the groom was drinking red wine, and someone came by and knocked the red wine, and it went from her shoulder all the way down to her waist, red wine on her white dress. And so we took her in the office, and we were trying to get it off, and we were like Googling like what we'll
Did you have wine away?
we ended up with Windex, believe it or not, because it was so much.
My Big Fat Greek wedding. Put Windex on it.
And so at one point, like we were shoving like chargers up her dress because we didn't want the chemicals to get on her. And I'm like, she goes, I don't care what you touch. You can touch it as long as you want. Just get in there and get it off of me. And she was and so there was myself and a couple other people were all in there getting all this off. And I'll never forget that wedding. But
wow.
The groom walked in and he was to check on her and she goes, get the fuck out. I mean, that's exactly. And so that's why I think they're divorced, because I was like, this is never going to last.
In brides and grooms, wine away. It'll save your life.
Away.
Literally removes wine immediately. Have it in your emergency kit.
Or if you get pulled over by the police. No, I was just going to say that that they put so much trust in us. Well, in us, right? If you have a good partner, and that's what we are. We're not a vendor. We're a partner. If you have a good partner on your wedding day, you have that level of trust, and it truly is. I trust you to get me out of this situation, or I trust you to support me in getting through this. And that is so important when you are building the team to support you in your day. If you can't trust them, then you're sunk.
And you're the most important person on their wedding day. They're, like you're getting them through this most important day of their life. And then, as soon as 11 o'clock hits, the witching hour, you're done. You're not the most important person in their day of their life anymore. But you really are that on that, especially with like what you were talking about, Glenn, with that mom, she trusted you to go get done what you needed to get done, no matter how big of a dick you were being.
That's right. Big, giant, huge.
Oh, okay. Moving on.
Wait. Whatever happened to the pot roast? Did anyone eat it, or what was?
It was just
what happened to the pot roast?
It was just a pot. There was actually no meat in the pot.
Roast.
It was fake pot roast.
Oh, okay.
It was just her mom's pot.
Oh.
Not the kind you smoke.
Pot, I was going to say.
With. I was like, that sounded bad.
Just your mom's pot,
Okay.
So funny.
All right.
I think we need to wrap it up. We've hit the
Yep.
we've hit the witching hour. We've hit the 11 o'clock.
11
hour.
o'clock.
11 o'clock hour. Don't
All right,
feed
Kevin,
them
you
after
wanna-
midnight.
All right.
Nope.
Well, first we need to thank the wonderful, esteemed DJs of Fantasy Sound for being here with us, and thank you, August, for guiding us through another episode, which I'm sure won't be our last episode. Hopefully, we gave you enough blooper reels to play with. When you make that, when you
More
make
than
that
enough. I
highlight.
got loads of content sitting in here right now.
And then also remember to email podcast@Fantasy Sound if you have any questions for August or I to answer. And thank you for being. Thank you guys for episode 2 for you guys. This is your second one.
Yeah, we're
Yep.
not virgins anymore.
No, yeah.
Ooh.
That was the funniest part of the.
That was
of
the first time.
I popped my,
Hot dog down
popped
a
my
hallway.
cherry. I popped my cherry.
So experienced.
I'm a
All right.
slut now. Podcast
Yeah.
slut.
I'm
There you
moving to
go.
Vegas. I'm going to be a prostitute.
Okay.
The progression
We
is
just-
quick.
We just took a turn. All right. Thank you,
All right.
folks. Thank you for being another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How to Get Married. Don't forget to subscribe, like, review, give all the things for the podcast, and we'll see you on the next time. Another episode.
Enjoy your pot roast. Enjoy the pot roast.
Yes.
Peace.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married podcast, brought to you by Fantasy Sound Event Services. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode. Please get in touch with me if you have a topic you would like us to cover, or if you are struggling with your wedding planning. Please be sure to submit a question at podcast@fantasysound.com. I encourage you to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're a fan, we'd love if you would subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. It helps others find our podcast so they can learn from our guests too. And to everyone listening, happy wedding planning.